The reality is that guy's partying, and he's partying real hard. And he talked about it in the court case. You know, he's talking about cocaine. Like that was the whole thing, that we're all doing cocaine.
What I'm saying is this: when you knock a champion who's been that dominant and that good for 10 years out in 14 seconds,
13.
there is a question, which is, was that in some ways a...
Joe Rogan, the UFC legend, just completely tore apart the Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor matchup by highlighting what everyone else was missing. Rogan isn't exactly a fan of the whole YouTuber-turned-boxer gimmick that Jake Paul brings, especially when Paul acts like he can take on McGregor, who's been struggling ever since his fight with Mayweather.
That's him now. He's super jacked.
He looks like a bodybuilder.
See, that's what he looks like now. He's still jacked. Still looks great. He looks good, though.
Whoa.
He looks so old now.
He looks different.
Perhaps the most important fight of your career. Give us your thoughts on this rematch. He should have killed me when he had the chance, because now I'm back and I'm going to kill you and your whole team. You and their kids. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants. That's what I dreamed into reality.
Well, Rogan's here to remind everyone that Jake Paul isn't the unstoppable force he believes himself to be. Sure, the guy has millions of followers and even more delusion, but does that really mean he can knock out a seasoned fighter like McGregor?
Don't aspire to be, one of these like YouTuber fighters.
Right.
Aspire for world titles.
So, let's dive into Rogan's savage take on the whole Paul versus McGregor circus, because, trust me, this is going to be one wild ride.
And that is that a lot of fighters, when they've sustained a significant amount of damage.
And no, this wasn't about breaking down their skills or predicting the winner. This was Joe's chance to kick back and have some fun with the whole situation. First off, Jake Paul, the YouTuber boxer, seems to be loving every minute of trolling everyone. Rogan didn't hold back either, dropping some choice words about Paul's boxing career and his knack for grabbing headlines. He straight up called Jake a master troll. But hey, credit where it's due. Jake's marketing game is next level. The guy's a circus ringmaster, and everyone's watching, even if it's just to see the chaos unfold. When it comes to Jake's boxing skills, Rogan is blunt. Sure, Jake's knocked out some recognizable fighters, guys like Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and Anderson Silva, but they were all past their prime. Rogan says if Jake weren't a YouTuber, people might take him more seriously as a boxer. Still, that YouTube background always seems to work against him. Even so, Rogan admits Jake's got real power behind his punches, even if the competition hasn't exactly been taught.
Now I think people are coming around. I say, if this kid was not a YouTuber, if he wasn't some guy that you knew from the time he was like 16 years old on YouTube, and you just saw him box, and you saw him knock out former UFC champions, you saw him beat legitimate boxers, or beat athletes, and beat a bunch of MMA fighters, you'd go, this kid can fight. He knows how to fight. Nothing he's doing looks wrong. He's not like sticking his head straight up in the air and winging punches with his eyes closed. He's fighting well.
Then there's Conor McGregor, the former UFC golden boy who's been on a downward spiral for a while now. Rogan, always honest, didn't hold back on McGregor's fall from grace. According to him, McGregor's biggest downfall wasn't a lack of skill, it was his self-destructive habits. All that fame and money hit McGregor hard. When he was at his peak, he was unstoppable, constantly bragging and trash-talking, but somewhere along the way, he lost it. It's like the fame got to his head, and he just couldn't stop partying. Yeah, McGregor's still in great shape, but that's not enough to hide the fact that his life's been a total mess lately. We're talking serious issues, legal troubles, failed business ventures, and a reputation that's taking a major nosedive.
He looks good, and if he was just an up-and-coming boxer that was this exciting, like highly promotable, like really good at selling fights, you'd be like, this kid's the future.
Rogan doesn't sugarcoat it. McGregor was supposed to be the greatest ever, the one to dominate the sport. And for a while, he did just that. He knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, became the first fighter to hold 2 UFC titles at the same time, and had the world at his feet. But McGregor's story didn't end there. Nope. Rogan points out that after reaching his peak, everything started to fall apart. From trashing buses to bizarre run-ins with other fighters, and generally acting like a circus performer both inside and outside the cage, McGregor's fall from grace has been, well, Entertaining but also kind of tragic.
I don't know if Conor's ever going to fight again.
What's happening with his the civil suit? He's being dropped by all his companies or something.
Yeah, I don't know the real details of that case, but the reality is that guy's partying, and he's partying real hard.
Let's talk about the infamous bus incident, the one where McGregor hurled a metal dolly at a bus full of UFC fighters. That really happened. Rogan's take. It was classic chaotic McGregor, unpredictable, reckless, and honestly, not all that surprising. The stunt landed McGregor in serious legal trouble, which, let's be real, doesn't exactly scream world champion behavior. But Rogan doesn't stop at calling out the chaos. He goes all in, criticizing McGregor's inability to stay focused, and his now legendary partying lifestyle. There's been plenty of talk cocaine, wild nights, and an all-around pattern of debauchery. Sure, McGregor keeps talking about a comeback, but it's hard to take him seriously when he seems to be swerving into every lane except the one that leads back to fighting.
Which is, Dylan Dennis is a professional fighter. He's a professional fighter. He jumps out, he takes a swing at him. They're screaming, and Dylan's like, "Fuck you," and he's like, "Fuck you," and there's a bunch of people get involved, and then a bunch of other people jump in. The whole thing was nuts. But the idea that we should be shocked after him throwing a dolly at a bus because Khabib's on the bus, those Russians don't fucking play like that, man.
Yeah.
And then there's the not-so-small issue of McGregor's legal troubles. From losing major sponsorships to facing a civil suit, his career has turned into a whirlwind of controversy. One of the most serious allegations came from a woman in Dublin, who accused McGregor of assault. Needless to say, not exactly the kind of press he was hoping for. Rogan doesn't just brush this off, he gives it the serious attention it deserves. According to him, McGregor's life is in total disarray, and it's dragging down his legacy. Sure, McGregor keeps posting cryptic workout videos on Instagram, trying to show he's still in the game. But let's be honest, the fire, the passion, the raw charisma that once made him a global superstar, it's gone.
Who accused the mixed martial arts fighter Conor McGregor of raping her in a hotel in Dublin 6 years ago, has won a civil case against him. The jury has found McGregor liable and ordered him to pay Nikita Hand €250,000 in damages.
And then there's all the comeback talk. McGregor keeps teasing a return, but let's be real, it's getting harder and harder to take seriously. Ever since that brutal leg injury in 2021, fans have been wondering if we'll ever see the old McGregor again. But the truth is, this isn't just about physical recovery. McGregor is facing a mountain of issues, and the octagon seems to be the least of his concerns. Between legal battles, business flops, and his non-stop party lifestyle, no one really knows what his future looks like. And Rogan, he's not exactly optimistic. With all the chaos surrounding him and his focus clearly more on partying than training, McGregor's comeback is starting to look more like a fantasy than a real possibility.
UFC fighter Conor McGregor has been accused of sexually assaulting a woman after an NBA basketball game in Miami earlier this month. A legal letter outlining the allegations was sent to Mr. McGregor and seen by BBC News. It says the alleged assault took place in a bathroom at an arena in Miami. The woman's lawyer said she'd been watching Game 4 of the finals on Friday the 9th of June before the alleged incident happened. She alleged the woman was forced into a men's bathroom by security guards from the NBA and Miami Heat before being violently assaulted by Mr. McGregor.
Well, not so fast. Rogan, ever the realist, was quick to point out that Jake Paul isn't just some washed-up social media star trying to punch above his weight. Sure, Jake's a YouTuber at heart, but Rogan isn't buying the narrative that he's a joke. After watching his performance against Tyron Woodley, Rogan flat-out called Jake legit. No more laughing off Paul, as some internet clown Joe admitted it. Jake Paul can knock you out if you're not paying attention. Rogan still acknowledges that Jake's fight IQ might not match that of a top-tier UFC veteran. But let's not kid ourselves, Jake's out here fighting in a real sport. He's been sparring with legit pro boxers, training alongside names like Canelo and Ryan Garcia. Whatever you think of him, one thing's clear. Jake Paul isn't just playing around anymore.
Good match for Conor. Is that ever happening? Or
I don't know if Conor's ever going to fight again.
what's happening with his he just got like the civil suit or whatever, and he's being dropped by all his companies or something.
Now, don't get Joe wrong, he still gives McGregor credit where it's due, especially when it comes to striking. McGregor built his reputation on precision, timing, and knockout power. But the story goes deeper than that. Since the Mayweather fight, McGregor's life has been one of excess. And it's taken a serious toll, not just the fame and fortune, but everything that came with it. Rogan points out that McGregor's been through a lot more inside the cage than people often acknowledge. Yeah, he was living the high life, but not in a way that helped his career. The constant partying, the injuries, the brutal leg break, the public meltdowns, it all added up. And now, we're looking at a fighter who just isn't in his prime anymore. According to Rogan, a big part of McGregor's downfall wasn't age, it was indulgence. Too much money, too much fame, and not enough discipline. That lavish lifestyle that came with his success. It became his biggest weakness. Rogan sees it as a classic case of self-destruction, one that could have been avoided if McGregor had stayed focused on what got him to the top in the first place.
As a boxer?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And listen, what Jake Paul has accomplished is he's fighting old guys.
Yes.
He's fighting, all he fights are old guys and whatever. But listen, say what you want, he wins. And he makes money. So he's doing his thing, you know.
And that's exactly where Jake Paul's growing legitimacy starts to matter. Say what you want about his antics or his cringy online persona, but when it comes to boxing, Jake isn't slacking. In fact, Rogan points out that Paul's career has taken a serious shift toward the professional. He's been stepping into the ring with real opponents, training like an actual fighter, and building a resume that's forcing people to pay attention. Yeah, Jake started as a celebrity boxer, but he's evolving into someone who genuinely knows how to throw hands, and the world is beginning to take notice. Now contrast that with McGregor's situation. He's out of the game. And Joe Rogan doesn't sugarcoat it. Despite McGregor's undeniable talent and past achievements, he's got a long track record of bad decisions, injuries, and habits that don't exactly scream comeback king. The moment McGregor stepped away from competition, his prime started slipping through his fingers. Sure, the skills may still be there. He might even still be dangerous. But Rogan keeps circling back to one question: how much of that killer instinct is really left after the fame, fortune, and chaos? That's what makes this matchup so intriguing and uncertain.
Jake Paul, it's clear to me you are desperate for a reality check. You know what? If I made my money impressing 4-year-olds on YouTube and managed to somehow become a multimillionaire from it, I'd probably live in a dream world too. But let me explain something to you about combat sports. There are a whole bunch of men out here who will never be as famous as you, will never make the money you've made, who would kick the living fuck out of you. This is the hardest sport in the world, and people dedicate their lives to this, and most of them never get a payday. It never pays off for the majority of fighters, who would fuck you up.
So what's the bottom line? Could Jake Paul actually beat Conor McGregor in a boxing ring? According to Joe Rogan, it's not out of the question. McGregor's been through too many wars, too many injuries, and way too many distractions. Meanwhile, Jake's been grinding. He's not just improving physically, his mental game is leveling up too. Sure, McGregor might still have flashes of that old beast inside him. But the real question is, how many of those best days does he have left? Rogan doesn't offer a definitive answer. But one thing is crystal clear from his commentary: Jake Paul is no longer the joke people made him out to be. And as for McGregor, his prime might already be in the rearview mirror.